The advent of internet streaming and simulcasts has made the world a better place for anime fans. I truly believe that. But with any innovation, as we leave the old ways behind, we lose some things of value along the way. When the anime industry in Japan made the jump to digital production, we lost the subtle feel of cell animation. And when the English anime market moved away from Saturday morning and late night TV blocks and overpriced DVDs, we lost something even more tangible and precious.
Kirby, that's a name you should know. Kirby, he's the star of the show. He's more than you think, he's got maximum pink. Kirby's the one.
Yeah, this may sound like blasphemy coming from a guy who built his career picking apart Japanese OPs, but I grew up watching anime with English openings. I like the English openings, and you know what? Sometimes they were better. Not visually, usually they were cut together haphazardly using clips of the original openings mixed with scenes from the show, with zero regard for the story those openings were trying to tell. But in terms of music and music matching visuals, you cannot possibly tell me that this absolute bop is not infinitely more fun than this. Not only does the faster timing and rowdier music better suit the animation of Kirby flying out of a cannon, the English opening adds a sound effect. And sound effect openings, as we all know, are objectively the best kind of openings. Checkmate, atheists. Okay, so obviously musical taste is hugely subjective, and I'm sure that there are literally dozens of you out there who don't think that Kirby is, in fact, the one. But you gotta admit, the dubbing houses of the 90s threw together some total bangers. The Shaman King opening, for example, has been one of my all-time favorites since it premiered in 2003. That song is straight up inspiring. It doesn't just describe the plot of the show, it captures the mysticism and heroic themes of Shaman King's story, and makes the show stand out from the rest of 4Kids lineup as something a bit more mature and intense. In general, 4Kids did a really good job of selling the identity of whatever they were adapting with their music, even if they tweaked things a little for Western tastes. I apologize in advance for getting this stuck in your head, but take Magical Do-Re-Mi, for example.
Just like magic, watch and see. Magical do-re-mi like magic. 1, 2, 3, just like magic. That's me.
That bubblegum pop theme made the show stand out not just from the rest of 4Kids lineup, but also from its less goofy magical girl contemporaries like Sailor Moon, which we'll get to in a sec. I'm pretty sure that song didn't make the show a hit, but it has stayed lodged in my brain for over a decade. As has the One Piece rap.
Here's how the story goes. We find out about a treasure in the Grand Line, there's no doubt.
Yeah, I know that that's a sore spot for a lot of people, but if you can look past that, the idea of combining sea shanty elements with gangster rap in order to sell a story about a gang of cool pirates to American kids, that is goddamn marketing genius. Also, you can't deny that it's catchy as hell. Speaking of earworms, Pokemon is an obvious example. I would play that song, you know the one, but just like you can already hear it playing in your head, I can already hear ShowPro's lawyers rappelling down the side of my building as I speak, so let's just cap this off by saying that Whole New World from Johto Journeys is the best one, and skip right to all the Pokemon knockoffs. Digimon, for example, had a very different, though no less memorable theme song. It was at the forefront of an arms race among anime dubbers to say the name of the show as many times as humanly possible in the space of 1 minute. Maybe Maybe not the most complex song in the world, but it made damn sure you knew that Digimon were digital monsters and also the champions. And the techno style did suit its subject matter. On top of that, the consistency across seasons had a neat effect as the series evolved. Listen to how the first few seconds differ between Digimon Adventure and Digimon Tamers. The heavier guitar and more ominous synth noise subtly convey that this is going to be a darker season than the last two. That's something that anime that change their openings each season can't really do in the same way. Although honestly, I would have still preferred more variety. They gave us that variety with Frontier, and it was incredible.
As we work towards one solution to a spirit evolution.
The singing, the chanting, this was the epic, globe-trotting music that better Pokemon deserved. Shame that it was put in front of probably the worst season of the whole series, although the religious undertones were a particularly good fit for the story that Frontier eventually told, even if it took forever to get there. And visually, I think that the cuts on action between all of the kids using their Digivices come together really smoothly and look better than anything in the Japanese opening. That's just like my opinion though, man. Yu-Gi-Oh! Underwent a similar evolution with its English intros. The first series intro is downright iconic, blending classic Egyptian wind instruments with voice samples and a killer bass line to create this dark, dangerous, mystical vibe. It's a fantastic composition, as you'd expect from Wayne Sharp, who also composed for Kirby, and Pokemon theme song co-producer John Siegler. And again, it really helps Yu-Gi-Oh! To stand apart from other shows of the era. But I don't know if I'd really call it catchy. The Yu-Gi-Oh! GX theme, on the other hand, this is pretty standard fare for anime openings at the time, basically just sing about the plot and repeat the title a few times, but it's a damn good example of that formula, and I know at least half of you were singing along with it. Plus, I think the shift in style to 90s pop punk was appropriate for the very, very tame themes of teen rebellion at the heart of GX. Speaking of rebels, I've got a real soft spot for the ridiculous plot of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, which somehow manages to frame card games as both being a cool, underground rebel activity and an internationally recognized sports phenomenon. But whether or not you prefer to play your card games on motorcycles, you can't deny that that theme song was something else. Four Kids was essentially taking the Japanese Annie-song approach to openings here, using a song that wasn't about Yu-Gi-Oh! But instead reflected the themes and tone of the series, and I love it so damn much.
Take a shot at me, running side by side. It's a blur as I go by.
They don't even say the title in the song, which is probably a good thing because I can't think of a non-awkward way to sing Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds in the first place. In order to make sure that they picked the right song, 4Kids held a vote with 8 different contenders, and Hyperdrive came out on top. Honestly, I'm more than a little bummed that no other series ever really tried this approach to their openings. Well, actually, does Saint Seiya count? When Deke Entertainment dubbed the series as Knights of the Zodiac in the West, they licensed Bowling for Soup's punk rock cover of I Ran by a Flock of Seagulls for the opening, of all possible things. And it was actually pretty cool.
A beam of light comes shining down on you, shining down on you.
And that's not the only time that a big-ish band has been involved with an English anime dub, and no, I'm not talking about the Digimon the movie soundtrack. When Tokyo Pop dubbed Rave Master, you know, that other Hiro Mashima shonen anime, they tapped the ska punk band Real Big Fish to sing the theme song, and needless to say, it was pretty delightful hearing Aaron Barrett describe the show's ludicrous plot.
With the sword must next become the master, seeking out the throne with a carrot-nosed dog.
it's pretty great that even the theme song is incredulous about Plu. Though not all rumored anime connections to big musical artists are real. Spider Riders, a Japanese-Canadian co-production, has a kick-ass theme song that's often mistakenly attributed to Canadian rap superstar Drake, which is weird since the MC doesn't even sound a little bit drunk.
Look at powers inside you, so strive to be a great rider. We're riding on, so now we're calling off.
If you're wondering, that's actually MC Clip from the Canadian hip-hop group Brass Monk. And while he might not be Drake, it's still a pretty kick-ass theme song. Speaking of anime raps and Canada, we Canadians got a different dub of Dragon Ball GT courtesy of Blue Water Studios, and thus we were thankfully spared from Welcome to the Grand Tour.
Step into the Grand Tour. Step into the Grand Tour. Dragon Ball GT.
Instead, we got a theme that used the same instrumentation as the original Japanese, but came up with a new vocal melody that still worked surprisingly well. I want to give credit to Dragon Gomu UK for that version of the OP, since he recut the opening with higher quality footage from the Blu-ray in order to make it. And okay, nostalgia's definitely a factor here, but I really like that opening. The vocals remind me of ELO's Twilight, which is always a positive association. It does cut some parts of the Japanese intro, namely the bits with Kid Goku's own Dragon Balls hanging out, but it preserves way more of its gorgeous Sakuga than Welcome to the Grand Tour by a long shot. And I think it does a way better job of conveying the series' mix between the adventurous tone of classic Dragon Ball and the intensity of Z. Maybe Dragon Ball fans would have been a bit more accepting of GT if the OP hadn't straight up lied to them. Of course, there's trade-offs for everything. While Canadians got a better GT opening, when the original Dragon Ball series aired in America, you guys got a mediocre but faithful dub of the original theme song, while we got this embarrassing low-effort flash animation. And with Dragon Ball Z, while Americans got the headbangin' Rock the Dragon, Canadians got, he's literally just singing the title over and over again. I mean, it still conveys the same combative tone as Rock the Dragon and does a good job representing the series, but it doesn't have that same incredible energy, at least not to me. Of course, not every English theme song accurately represented its source material. The Cardcaptors intro straight up lied to viewers, selling the show as this mystic adventure, their words, not mine.
Cardcaptors, a mystic adventure. Cardcaptors, a quest for all time.
They basically pulled the same nonsense as the Fox Kids broadcast of Escaflowne, taking what's fundamentally a shoujo romance with action elements and trying to sell it to boys by playing up the stakes and the action to a ridiculous degree. Though to be fair, unlike Escaflowne, the English Cardcaptor theme slaps.
We've got to find them to bring the power home.
That certainly doesn't represent what Cardcaptor Sakura is really about, and it's a far cry from the Japanese opening, but that theme got me to watch the show. It still gets me banging my head years later, and I don't know that I would have had the same reaction to the more faithful but painfully mediocre English rendition of Catch You, Catch Me. That's just like the worst possible combination of the describe the plot approach that many original English intros took, and the often awkward practice of simply dubbing over the Japanese theme song. Although some studios who took that approach did achieve some pretty amazing results, and this style of English opening has been around for a while. The English OP for Bubblegum Crash was pure 90s goodness,
People are trying to capture all the love that dreams. The tighter they hold on, the more they feel it slip through their hands.
as was the opening for Irresponsible Captain Tyler.
Make me your only partner on this journey. One that you trust more than words.
The most famous example of a dubbed OP would probably be the Sailor Moon theme,
Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight.
which is arguably better remembered and regarded than even the original Japanese theme that spawned it. Although the Japanese OP's storybook animation kinda puts the American visuals to shame. A lot of people hold Sarah White's beautiful rendition of the Yu Yu Hakusho theme, Smile Bomb, in similarly high regard and will take it over the Japanese any day of the week. Although personally I think they're both really good and I'd tap my foot along to either. Funimation has a long track record of fantastic English dubbed openings. They kinda made a name for themselves among purists in the wake of the One Piece rap controversy by giving the show a much more faithful OP, which, as much as I love the rap, I must admit is pretty damn beautiful.
That legendary place that the end of the map reveals is only legendary till someone proves it real.
Man, Vic Mignogna can sing, which is probably why they had him do other openings like the deliciously early 2000s DN Angel intro.
Brought into the light at last by the cold exposing sun.
And though he didn't have a direct hand in that one, the Ouran High School Host Club theme translates almost perfectly into a catchy English love song.
Maybe you're my last and I might find a hand like yours to take mine and with one kiss.
Funimation's still at this, but only really for Dragon Ball Super and Kai a few years back. Still, their dubs of these openings are really good, and it's nice to be able to listen to Vic Mignogna sing again without having to buy his Christian rock albums. While this might seem a little bit easier than making an original song, Japanese and English have completely different meters and rhyming conventions that make straight translation of music very difficult. So regardless of whether they were remixing a Japanese song in English or creating an entirely new composition, making a good opening was never as simple as it seemed. So why did dubbing outfits go to all this effort in the first place? In the world of 90s network television, a good opening was one of the most potent weapons that a show had at its disposal for attracting new viewers. When the show a viewer was just watching had ended and they were about to start channel surfing for something else to watch, a catchy, fun, and visually engaging opening could grab them, keep them on the channel, or catch their attention as they were flicking by, and if the content and tone of the intro sold them on the show itself, it could maybe make them stick around for the rest. This was a market where, especially when it came to kids programming, shows with catchy, memorable theme songs were dominant. And as fantastic as many Annie songs were, if you were looking to target North American children in the 90s and 2000s, especially in a competitive daytime programming block, you probably weren't going to get them singing along to a Japanese opening. Well, unless they were me. I want to change the world. And there was one more little wrinkle. Anime openings and endings typically clock in at 1 minute and 30 seconds each, while the standard for syndicated cartoons in America at the time totaled half that, a minute-long intro and a 30-second outro. Anime that kept their original openings left less room for ads, so a show that could shave off that length would be more appealing to potential broadcasters. If you wanted that anime that you just paid all that money licensing to have the best chance at success, it only made sense to invest a bit more in creating a great English theme song. Or a bad one. There were a lot of those. I mean, 4Kids may have knocked out some real jams, but they also gave us the Fighting Foodons theme, which is literally just bad puns sung to the tune of Orpheus in the Underworld. Wait, is it just me, or was that like a little bit racist? Yup, that is actually kind of a perfect fit for a show about foodstuffs that turn into racial stereotypes. So maybe they put more thought into this song they stole than I gave them credit for. Probably not, though. And, like, okay, while the guitar in the English theme is fun, making more room for ads is pretty much the only reason I can think of to replace all of Naruto's killer Japanese openings with this actual gibberish. What is he even singing? Oh my god, I think this foreshadows how Boruto's dad is going to respond to his son edging him out of his own franchise. They were playing 4D chess with this one. Now that's what's in an OP. Okay, jokes aside, for quite a few shows, they didn't even bother to come up with a real theme song at all. We just got 30 seconds of random clips over a slightly hummable, if we were lucky, orchestral melody. I bet you didn't even remember Moncole Nights existed until just now. And I blame that 30 seconds of farting tubas, because the show was awesome. Good. Okay, look, I liked it. To me, as a kid watching television, those instrumental openings almost always made it feel like the producers of the show were cheaping out on me. Although there were some really solid songs hidden among them, like this number from SD Gundam Force of all things. That legitimately would not feel out of place in a game like Valkyria Chronicles. It is a solid, epic-feeling orchestral composition. Little out of place with the goofy tone of the show, but a great tune. The same cannot be said for the opening of Mega Man NT Warrior, which I think is supposed to be techno, but is functionally indistinguishable from dial-up noise. Although I do have to give them props for telling kids nationwide to seconds before Roll attacks the camera crotch first. On the subject of young Japanese kids and their digital pets, remember all those nice things that I was saying about Digimon? Yeah, after Frontier they went downhill fast. Data Squad starts with a super generic, instantly forgettable rock number,
Never surrender, never be outdone, 'cause the challenge ain't over. We've only just begun.
and for Fusion they literally just auto-tuned a guy describing the plot of the show. Yokai Watch took a similarly lazy approach with one of its English openings, with the other being a pretty decent dub over the original Japanese, but I'm seeing a ShowPro laser sight dancing across my chest again, so I'm just gonna skip over those too. To be fair, this isn't exactly new either. As much of an earworm as the Hamtaro theme was, for example, it's kind of impressively bad.
Watch out for those cats, you know they're smarter than you think. But if we work together, we can make their plan sink.
That rhyme is so tortured it would make Dick Cheney wince, and despite using both auto-tune and chipmunking, the vocalist still comes off as super flat. I can't show them for obvious reasons, but Pokemon's English OP game has been slipping ever since Battle Frontier, and Yu-Gi-Oh's intros have suffered over the years as well. Zexal's theme goes for a similar approach to 5Ds, but it has like zero energy behind it. The rap they use to open Arc V is actually pretty catchy, if a little cheesy and very low energy.
It's me, competition for the victory. I could be the best one day and make history. Swing into action. Are you ready to play? Challenge anyone, anywhere, any day.
But with the opening of V-Rains, I give up, and so did they. They completely left out lyrics altogether. Compared to the first Yu-Gi-Oh opening, the orchestration here sounds really generic with no memorable melody and no elements like the Egyptian flute to make it stand out. You could put that song in front of just about anything without it feeling out of place. I'll admit that a good bit of this may just be my nostalgia talking. There were definitely plenty of bad English openings when I was growing up, and some recent English openings are actually really solid. Short as it is, the Beyblade Burst theme feels surprisingly epic.
Our base collide, fight to survive. During the battle, they come alive.
It's certainly not the butt rock of my youth, that absurdly over-the-top anthem about how playing with tops is a way of life. But the Burst theme is good in its own way. Regardless of individual quality, though, there are undeniably fewer English openings being made today. Even acknowledging the many terrible English anime openings that came out in the Pokemon boom of my youth, it still seems to me like the few remaining have less going into them overall. But then it only makes sense that they would. Nowadays, anime doesn't need to be on TV to do well, and when you're streaming a show or watching it on DVD, the opening credits don't serve as an ad anymore. They're just a bumper to ease you into the show's world and set the tone for your viewing session. If you do see them without having already made a conscious choice to sit down and watch the show, it's probably in the context of Twitter or YouTube where you're already interested in anime to some extent. And even if you do stumble across an anime on Toonami or what have you, tastes in North America have shifted. Anime is no longer thought of as a weird niche thing, and the insane success of songs like Gangnam Style and Despacito has put paid to the idea that American consumers will reject songs out of hand if they're not in English. Heck, a really good Japanese opening like Guren no Yumiya or The Hero can be a major selling point for a show. So unless a company is dubbing a series specifically aimed at young kids like Yokai Watch, Pokemon, or Glitter Force, or something for all ages with a legacy of English language songs like Dragon Ball Super and I'm pretty sure just that actually, dubbing over the intro just doesn't make that much sense anymore. It's gone from a good investment to a needless expense. In light of that, while I don't think they'll ever go away completely, I'm pretty sure that we're never going to see English anime openings make some sort of grand resurgence. And that's probably for the best, honestly. Anime no longer needs the signal boost, but it makes me a little sad to think that we'll never find out what kind of catchy nonsense 4Kids would have cooked up to introduce something like My Hero Academia. On the bright side, we've got talented music YouTubers like Nate Wants to Battle and Lian Lai who do their own English covers of anime openings that are generally pretty fantastic, even if they're not always straight renditions of the originals. Now, like I said at the top of the video, musical taste is entirely subjective. A lot of you probably hate some of the songs that I was just gushing about, or love the ones that I was ripping on. And if you feel that way, more power to you. Unless you don't like the Shaman King theme, then we can't be friends. I'm sure I've skipped over some openings that you guys love. Hell, I haven't even been able to squeeze all the ones that I loved as a kid into this video, so let me know in the comments below what your favorite dubbed opening was and why. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button if you like the video, and subscribe and ring the notification bell if you want to see more videos from me. I'm Jeff Thu. Okay, a little bit of Pokemon.